Welcome to Talking Spoilers, a series that pops up every now and again on the channel, and it is a series where me and my mate talk about a specific game series that we had recently played. In this case, it is Crackdown 3, and to be more specific, co-op in Crackdown 3. So, hopefully you enjoy.
I'm just trying to think which one will spark the most, discussion to begin with. And, when it comes down to it, it's just, the game is shit.
Pretty much.
There's really nothing about it. We could talk about how the co-op is, capped at 30 fucking FPS, right? But that's one issue. And then that's my main fucking issue with it. One of the funnest things in the game was outright just collecting all the fucking orbs. And I think that was the only fun part.
Yeah.
Because the driving and the driving skill in general is fucking useless. Borderline broken. I was watching the gameplay, right? And so many of the cars in the gameplay, when I was editing them together, were just randomly twitching and doing 90-degree turns on a straight road.
All the wheels have their own mind.
Yeah.
It's so, yeah. I just looked up how long it took in development. It was 4 years. The top article I found was Crackdown 3. It was dated after 4 years of development, but it's fun. It's a fun throwback to the days of Xbox 360.
I agree with that. I didn't know it was originally meant to come out in 2015.
Every year they announced it got delayed again that same year to the following. And it even got to a point where I'm pretty sure it was there was a lot of rumors that it was going to get cancelled.
I honestly would have preferred it to be cancelled than get this, as time wasting as it was, but in a kind of fun way. I would have preferred any other fucking game that had been cancelled by Microsoft, probably fucking Scalebound, even though I never heard anything about it outside of it being cancelled, to having a series that we grew up on just come out shit again.
Yeah, it kind of just seems like everything Microsoft's been producing is just kind of turned out really disappointing. There was Sea of Thieves, which is probably good now.
But at launch, it was shit. It was so fucking bare
bones. It wasn't a bad game. It just didn't have enough content.
It was a sandbox without anything to really do in the sandbox. Outside of, here's how you play the game. I mean, it didn't really tell you how the fuck to play the game either. Because we spent so long trying to figure out how to open the map or do quests and shit.
We struggled because you have to set a target on the map, and that's what we struggled with. And because we played day one, there was no videos or anything that was out of saying how to play it.
Exactly. But that's fucking Sea of Thieves. We're talking about Crackdown, James.
Fuck off.
But yeah, fucking Halo 5 as well. That was at least that came out polished. Everything else about Halo 5 was shit, but at least it came out polished. Outside of multiplayer, of course.
I have kind of two worries about Microsoft. So, I feel like all these games have just come out, and this is just, my opinion on this, I don't fucking know. It feels like everything recently that they've produced, they started that whole fucking, they brought a shit ton of developers, and they're making all these new exclusives, and that whole chain started. The new director of Xbox is, seems like he's doing a fucking change, and all the games before that were probably kind of out of his hand.
Yeah.
It was the director beforehand. I don't know. I just feel like these games kind of were destined to not turn out great.
These are in the shit period of Xbox One's launch period and everything.
Yeah, just trying to rush games, or maybe not putting as much time as they should have, and having whole development crisis. So the hope is that these new exclusives that are going to come out are going to be really good, because it's a whole new system. Soon the new fucking Xbox console will come out and be probably better. than what it already is.
That's if we do get a new Xbox console. They could just literally just drop have your PC and that's it. Because we're literally getting every single exclusive coming out from Xbox on PC now. Or like it's the cross-play type of thing. So,
well, the hope is that all the new games, like all the exclusives at least for them, come out good. Like the PS4 has been the last fucking 4 years, and like, but I'm also now worried because it could be the exact opposite. It's just Microsoft doesn't know how to fucking like. It's just can't fucking give. I don't know. There's just something not right, and I'm just worried that every game that Microsoft's going to push out is going to turn out shit.
Which is a pretty warranted thought to have. Like, everything, as far as I'm aware, in the past 4 years has either come out mediocre or just shit.
Like, even, like
Gears
this
of
one
War 4 was pretty mediocre in terms of what was happening. Like, it was a rehash with different characters. And like a kind of a twist. And like that's really the only Xbox exclusive I can think of outside of Sea of Thieves, Crackdown, and Halo.
Like there's little ones that they like do that come out really well, like Cuphead.
Oh yeah, Cuphead came, which is probably their like peak in the past couple of years, as far as I'm aware. Like there could be some other shit, but
I know there's a couple other like indie games that came out that were apparently pretty good. I know there was what was that one that they announced last year? It had like a fox in it. It was like a new mascot of them. It was it was on Games Pass. I saw it the other day. Super Lucky's Tale.
Wasn't
like
that a
exclusive
remaster of some shitty old?
I didn't
game?
think so. I thought it was brand new. It could have been a remaster, but like it was like a platformer.
I'm thinking of
and I was like,
Bugsy.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, it's a completely different thing.
But yeah, just I don't know. Crackdown 3 kind of just feels like if they just said fucking here's Crackdown 3, it's pretty much the fucking same as Crackdown 2. There you go. I'd be happy with that. But it just feels like so many things they just half-assed or just didn't bother to put in. And you can just tell when you watch Crowcat's video of just the promises they made and to the result. And like every fucking developer does that, and that's fine to an extent.
Yeah.
And then like after that, it just feels like you've been lied to.
The biggest thing with Crackdown is like the multiplayer destruction mechanics, because it was always multiplayer. Like after watching the full E3 preview, it was always like 2B multiplayer. But something when I looked at it last week was everything that was structured around the destruction mechanics was bought out by Epic Games. So that's why, as far as I'm aware, we don't have the super revolutionary server cloud tech that was shown in like 2015 or 2016. But the thing with that is there was no like middle ground for that. From the Krobby Cat video, because like you said it, there's still destruction, but it's literally like fucking 2000. Whenever Red Faction Bloody Gorilla came out, it's like that, but in a worse quality. Like it's not even close to the destruction that game had, and games similar to it at the time had. Like in the end, Crackdown 3 is just like a fucking relic that didn't know how to adapt to like the new generation. I think that's like the best way I can put it. Because there's the fact that they couldn't introduce anything really new to the series, but they couldn't even bring back stuff that Crackdown 1 and 2 had. The main one for me being the ranking up of the cars.
How they transformed.
Yeah, how they transformed for each rank of driving that you got. Not like it would have mattered, because driving is fucking pointless in this game. And when you actually do have to use it, You just randomly tap a one little rock in the fucking ground or hit a civilian or do anything and your car just shits the bed and crash. Like, the races were terrible, and in editing, like, the raw footage and everything, there was the one that took me multiple times because you had to drift around a rock coming out of a highway and then back onto, like, this tunnel area and repeat that, like, for 2 laps. And if you didn't drift around that rock, your time wouldn't meet the gold requirement. Of course, that's, like, my problem because I was going for gold and like, trying to do everything in the time that we had it. It was nearly impossible. And that's from me who likes driving in video games.
It didn't help either that, you know, for like, at least for as a co-op experience, you're capped at 30 frames. So driving, like, is even just so much worse trying to play co-op than it would be single player.
Exactly. That kind of fucked us over in general. The 30 FPS cap screwed with combat because as soon as more than 10 enemies, or as soon as you got those big giant mechs on the field and in the arena, both our games would just shit the bed and we had to fucking relaunch because there was so much happening on the screen and the game couldn't handle it. Whether that's, like, tied to this 30 FPS cap or the game's engine in general, it doesn't say any, like, it's nothing good. Because we had to relaunch the game. And these were, like, right after you kill a boss, when you're in the, I don't care if there's 1 agent or 100 agents, kill them all section. And you had to, like, constantly kill the bloody waves of enemies. And those sections we had to restart multiple times. I think in one of the boss fights we had to do it because it had the feature of minions constantly swarming the field. System-wise, the game was just poor. And it wasn't even optimized. And like, I have a pretty top-of-the-line PC. And it was still fucking shit. As soon as you disconnected, or I disconnected, and we were in our solo kind of sessions, the game would just be smooth. Or the game would be as close to smooth as you could get in the game's engine and experience.
Even like boss fights were just so just plain, and like even Crackdown 1 and 2's boss fights weren't anything amazing, but like they were all pretty generic. Go into a room, shoot them like just constantly in this tiny space, and that was the end of it. And in this one, it's no different, where it's just they're either in a mech suit or you just have to kill a bunch of minions and then they die and then that's it. The only unique one is the final boss fight, which was just a nightmare for us because the game was just running so poorly because of the amount that was happening.
Plus, we were constantly dying because we had the giant mechs that could like 2-hit you. Keep in mind that we were playing on, oh god, what were the difficulty names called?
So Super Agent, which is like the one just above normal.
Super fucking Agent. Everything up to the point of the final boss and the boss Nagata. Nagata was the worst boss in the game. He was the one with the mech and you were in the arena on top of the tower. If you remember that one.
Yeah, it was the one that we like struggled quite a bit with.
Yeah. In co-op, it was like pretty damn hard to kill him on Super Agent. And we were, at that point, we had literally nearly every single gun in the game, including the void weapon that you get on top of the tower. And I even, after we stopped playing right, I went back and made a new world save. So I kept the current agent stats that I have, which were all maxed at that point, and I went through the game to get the final achievements. One of the final achievements was kill the final boss on the highest difficulty. And you could literally just skip through everything and go to the tower and do it. No joke.
Oh, so she'll just spawn there automatically for you?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, right.
But I didn't do that, because I was like, you know what? Let's see how long it takes me to complete the game if you weren't collecting the agility, strength, and all the other orbs in the game. And it took me less than 5 hours. keep in mind that I had, like, maxed out stats.
So this is your, like, Game Plus?
Yeah, this is, like, New Game Plus. You keep your agent stats, but you can do a new world, like a new... It just refreshes the world back to when you initially start playing the game.
And is that including, like, destroying all the different towers and oil rigs and etc.?
Yes.
And it's 5 hours.
Took me 5 hours to do all of that, kill each of the bosses, including the final chick, on the highest difficulty.
Well, it's all the same. Like, every oil rig's the same,
Yeah, outside of the backstory behind the bosses. Oh, cool, this chick is experimenting with, Chimera. Is that what it's called? I don't know. Green kryptonite crap.
Yeah.
Like, this chick's experimenting with that. This other chick is a basic security guard who wants to enforce power and have their own militia. And the other one was just a fucking monorail station AI.
Which, that one actually kind of sounded cool at the start. Like, I was like, oh, an AI, that's pretty, like, that's different at least. I wonder how that's going to play out. And it was pretty much just nothing. Like, there's nothing to get excited about.
And then all you did was shoot a ball going up a tower. That was the boss fight. There was nothing, like, AI-like. It was just constant swarms of these robot enemies. That was it, up until the point where you shoot 3 different beams sticking towards the channel of the AI. That's the second stage. You shoot the orb, boom, third stage, and then you just shoot it. Giant orb on top of the tower.
Yeah, the boss fights were very just mediocre. And that can be said about the story as well. Like, even though, like, Crackdown isn't known for a good story, this one was just fucking terrible. You didn't give a shit about any of the characters. The ending for it was like it was almost just taking the piss out of its own game. It's like, yeah, this ending's a joke, just like a fucking game. Like, it's just so bad.
At this point, it's the case of Ratchet and Clank. Like, Kraken Time ruined any hope I had for the series after that point. Like, I didn't want to play the epilogue. Like, Crackdown 2 literally ends with your agent jumping into a fucking helicopter and getting sliced up to stop the enemy. And then at the end of it, oh cool, it's a hand in a jar, kind of fucking Doctor Who style. And that's the cliffhanger. Oh, what's good old Crackdown 3? Oh, you kill some fucking dragon thing flying around the top of the building. And then what? Fucking arm in a tube does a thumbs up.
Well, it's the same thing. It's the arm in the jar. It's the same fucking arm, and it just...
Is it though? Because I'm fairly certain it was just a hand in the second game.
Oh, yeah, actually, you might be right. Yeah, I think in the second game it was a hand, and in the arm. Even I wouldn't be fucking surprised if, let's say it is the same arm. If the developers just completely were like, oh fuck, like they just put an arm in, and it was actually meant to be a hand, and they even fucked up the ending even more because it doesn't even make sense to what they were showing. Because like I don't know what that arm could be for then, because it definitely was an agent's arm.
No, I'm sure if we were actually listening to those radio towers that we have to hack and we get orbs from, we would probably know this stuff, because it'll be like Infamous or probably Prototype, where the story is kind of told alongside the secret hidden parts of the story. Like Infamous's case, you could literally know who the beast was if you collected all of the info pads and everything like that. So I feel like it would be similar in this game, but because we didn't listen to them and because they weren't interesting at all outside of them sounding like they were having fucking sex, we don't know shit. And apparently halfway through the game, she starts talking to some mysterious voice, and nothing happens with that outside of the hand or the arm.
Well, like, as soon as the unknown voice came in, it made it a little bit, like, interesting. It's like, oh, okay, it's picked up momentum. Alright, let's see how this goes, because we said that the voice could, be cliche, as cliche as it is, it could be the agent, like not the agent, the guy who has like the awesome voice.
Yeah, the dude
like,
that's been in the game since the first one.
Yeah, the guy that just talks to you throughout the game. Like, it would be interesting, I guess, if it was him, because, you know, technically he is evil, and you learn this through the first game. In the first game, your agent dies, I believe,
No, in the first game, it's literally like you clear out everyone, Volk, Los Muertos, and whoever the other third faction is in the first game. And then you get to the top of Agency Tower, and he just does the stupid monologue. Pacific City thanks you. And then you shoot the screen. Something I've made fun of for the past fucking 6 years.
Right, okay.
Because it makes no sense.
But don't you...
And then the second game is the one with the hand.
But don't you throughout the first game and the second game, you find out that the actual agency is evil? Like that they've like...
Well, the idea of the agency, I would imagine, is like the CIA. It's like a commentary on that, where they're doing it for the right reasons. Like, they have to do all these bad things to keep them in power and to continue protecting the citizens and shit. I would imagine it's like that. That's why they're called the agency. But it's so over the place. Like, even at the end of 3, for the part with the hand, the operator... I can't remember his name. It's like Goodwin or some shit.
Operator sounds about right.
Yeah, let's just go with Operator. The Operator talks to the chick, who is the new voiceover person for the game.
Echo.
And the agent, who is Echo. And she's just not even close to the Operator from the first and second game, and she just constantly talks about bullshit. But either way, the Operator talks to Echo and kind of says, "You want to join the agency?" in more or less terms. And she goes, "Yeah, sure thing." Because the Operator dudes goes, "I don't know, you know what's good, and you know how something as bad as this could have affected the world in the wrong hands. So let's see how we can make it work in our favor," or something along the lines of that. So she essentially joins up with the agency.
At the end of the day, with Crackdown 3, story-wise, who gives a fuck? Like, really? Like, the game is meant to be big open sandboxes, blow shit up, and, like, that's fine. Like, I'm happy just to play a game that's like that. But it just wasn't that. Like, it just wasn't fun. Like, I couldn't even enjoy just that aspect of it, because it was just so plain. All the weapons, all the grenades, it just felt like nothing new.
They were all the same.
I could have played a game like Just Cause 4 and then played this, and I'm like, Just Cause 4's got all this same shit and it's better, instead of playing a game like Crackdown 3 where it just feels so outdated. Like, it's probably a bad example, but what I'm trying to say is, like, there are better games out there if you just want to play like an open, like, sandbox game.
They didn't bother making it up to par with newer games. Like, as much as I hate seeing it, everyone's saying Saints Row 4 or Saints Row 3 already did this. And, like, after playing the game, it's like, yeah, they fucking did, and at least it was functional. At least it was interesting. At least you kept characters and had characters that were interesting and, I don't know, you cared about. Like, even in Saints Row 4, you had your interactions with Kenzie, Shandy, and Pierce on like the Matrix ship, and you could have like your sex dialogue options and all of that stuff, and it was still fun and engaging. It's just anything that is said in the game is white noise. It does not matter, and it's not at any point intriguing outside of the mysterious voice dude and the Operator himself. It's just a relic, because they didn't bother adapting to the times. Like, as you said, Just Cause is a series that has been going on similar to Crackdown, but it's still kind of pushed the barriers of what you can do in the open sandbox. Like Crackdown, Just Cause 4 had the weather functions and all of that. I don't know.
I'm curious if they're going to make another one. Like, if it met their expectations. Because like review-wise, it does actually have some like it's not great, but it's like not really bad either.
It's
And like
mediocre. It's like B
yeah,
tier.
and a lot of people like are saying that the game's not great, but it's not terrible either. You can pick it up and have some fun with it at least, which
Yeah, like I won't deny, like you can pick this up and have fun, but if you paid $70 for this, I feel sorry for you.
yeah,
Like we got it for $2 through the Game Pass during a period of like the special discount code, and I like myself, I don't believe it's even worth $2. As much like we spent, I think it was 30 hours or 35 hours on it. If I remember all the timelines of it, but I think there were only a few moments in the game that actually were like fun.
and like and it kind of on our side it kind of sounds bad. It's like, oh, we hate this game or we dislike it at least, or we put 35 hours into it. And the only reason we put 35 hours into the fucking game is because collecting orbs, because
Yeah.
like collecting orbs is always satisfying. Like that's one thing the game does well, but it
And we've always been collectors in that sense. Like Crackdown 1 and 2, while we didn't collect every single one, mostly because Crackdown 1 didn't tell you what areas you hadn't collected in yet, or hadn't got the specific amount of orbs in, so it was literally, if you had to pull up the chart again, and like you had to pull up a map that someone else made and go from dot to dot just to make sure you had every single orb in the game for the achievement. Crackdown 2 fixed that, of course, and then 3 has the same function. But we've always enjoyed collecting stuff.
Yeah, there's
Where like, obviously me, I'm full ball collector where I need to have everything. While you're like, I'll collect up until the point where like I'm done with this shit.
yeah,
Which in this case was you finish the we finished the campaign, and like no more.
I try to do it. Like I only really enjoy collecting things in games if whatever I'm collecting is like it's going towards something. Like this isn't like involving achievement hunting, because achievement hunting is a completely different thing in a sense. Because in achievement hunting, you gotta do some really fucking weird things to get achievements. But when it's like my choice to just collect things, I preferred a game where going out of your way and collecting things is actually rewarding to you. Like it actually affects your characters, like leveling up or just get better loot, etc.
So like an MMO.
Yeah, well, like for example, I'm playing Metro Exodus, and I've put I think 20 hours into the game, and that game has its little open world areas as well as like linear areas. And like in the open world areas, I'm always going around every nook and cranny just to collect as much like loot as I can find, even though if I don't necessarily need it, it's just the fact that I want it. Because like then I know I've been in that area and I've done everything possible there, and I know if I do go out of my way to these areas and I find loot, it goes towards like my character. Like I get more ammo and I get more supplies, which means I can, survive better and etc. And with Crackdown, like collecting's fun in that game because it does have that satisfying noise. But if you were to collect all the orbs, you only get about halfway through and you're pretty much done. We pretty much maxed out agility and didn't even need to collect all the orbs.
We went halfway around the map because the map is basically a clock, and then you go into the center of the clock, and that's the way it's structured. Like there could have been a better example, but that's what I'm going with.
No, I get like where you're coming from with the clock.
Like halfway through the clock, we were done agility, and we were already level 4 firearms, explosives, and driving. And once we realized that there was a level 6, which was the maxed stage of our agent, the bonuses weren't even like anything good. Like for driving, you literally had a horn that would bounce enemies away from you for the speed car. For the tank, it was just extra damage, and then you had nothing for the jumping vehicle. because they probably couldn't think of anything to add to a jumping vehicle. Because they sure as hell didn't think of making things like Crackdown 1 or Crackdown 2. And I actually, watching that Krabby Cat video, I was surprised that it was actually Crackdown 1 that had the upgradable vehicles based on your vehicle ranking. I honestly thought it was Crackdown 2.
I think it is. I think it's both, to be honest, because I remember playing...
Yeah, it is both, but I'm surprised that Crackdown 1 had it. And
like you thought it started from Crackdown 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
So, like, that's even worse. A game that came out, as far as I'm aware, was like 2008. 10 years later, 11 years later, they couldn't be bothered to make the same mechanic. Which is, like, it's a small thing, but it's a big thing in a game like this, where you still need something new when you're playing an open world game to make it not so, like, monotonous and not so tedious that you're doing the same thing over and over and over again without any change. So, like Crackdown 1 and 2, you had the changes in your vehicle design and even your character design. They were very distinct in what was happening. So you wouldn't be like, oh, I'm still the same agent. It's why in open world games that have like customization, every now and again you're going to customize your character and swap it up. So like when it comes to Crackdown 3, we're in the same fucking tank. We're in the same goddamn like speed car and buggy for the whole like 30 hours, and that's just not interesting. And and as I said earlier, it's like it's tied to the driving and the mechanics and physics for the driving. It doesn't make you want to do anything. And with like character visual progression, this game, we didn't even, like, at least for me, I didn't realize we were actually beefing up. Like, we were changing visually as we ranked up. It wasn't noticeable at all. And in Crackdown 1 and 2, it was significantly more noticeable than this. I think halfway or 3/4 through the game, I was like to you, do we change? And you said, I think so. And I had to look up an old video, like one of the old recordings, to check if we actually changed, and we did. Which I think is...
It could have changed a fair bit, at least from playing it. It just kind of, you're a blue skinny dude or girl, and then you become a slightly bulker, and then you become a white suit, and then you become a bit bigger in the white suit, and that was pretty much it. And the only time we noticed it was when you go into the white suit, and even that wasn't that exciting. I don't know, it just was like, you just didn't care. And like, I don't know, it seems like, as a consumer point of view, it just seems like it was made and didn't have a lot of care or effort put into it, and then you just, when you're playing it, you just don't care. Like, just not, like, it's just a game you can play and just fucking shut down your mind.
Exactly. That's like the perfect way to describe this game. You don't play this game when you're actually wanting to think. You don't like play this game if your mind is in like a questioning state, because if you do, you're just gonna nitpick every single fucking thing in this game because it's so borderline fucked.
But like, even games like that,
which is
like,
fine to have. Like, I'm not arguing there, but you still need a little bit of interest for these games.
You need something to get you excited for the next phase.
Yeah, for the next stage of either the stage of the game or the game game series in general.
Because games that like make your brain just zone out and you're just fucking in your own world are fine, and there are better games that have done that than Crackdown 3 that have come out much like way before Crackdown 3. I don't know,
Infamous, I would say Infamous is like that.
Infamous is around like the whole Crackdown 2 phase, but I'm talking more like Just Cause 4. In a sense, you can just kind of zone out in that game and just blow like the shit up, and like have a much better experience with Just Cause 4. Than Crackdown 3, because it just seems like it's more effort's been put into it. It just seems like.
Yeah, plus Just Cause 4 actually looks like it's a modern game. This game looks like Crackdown 2 or 1.
Yeah, there was some buildings where the LEDs on the buildings were just so bad. Like they were too bright where it got to a point where you're trying to climb like up a building to get to an agility or whatever it may be, and it actually is hurting your eyes just because of how bright they have made these LED lights.
The design choice to have everything have like a futuristic sense of everything's holographic and everything, like there's nothing actual physical outside of the buildings themselves, was very weird. And like even climbing buildings, it made you question what was actually something you could climb on and what was some holographic like projection. Because
yeah,
as like a good example, climbing the center building, the one that the final boss is on, well, there were a number of sections of the building that were just like an LED inside glass, but then it had a like building trim. I can't think of the right word for it, but that's what I'm going with. Where it looks like you can grab onto it, but the building trim is like embedded into the glass, so you can't grab onto it, and then you fall all the way back down.
Even climbing just didn't seem right. If you fell in that game, you fall to the bottom. Like from what I remember in the first two, you could, if you fell off a building, you could just grab onto it, and it felt in a sense like somewhat smooth climbing around. But in Just Cause like 3, if you fall, like you fall to the bottom, and it's a big pain in the ass when you have to climb these like massive skyscrapers and have to start the way to the start, just because the climbing just is so buggy. There were so many times, constant times of you jumping to an edge and your character just doesn't pick up that he has to grab it. So you're pretty much just face palming this fucking, or not, like just rubbing your head up against this fucking wall, and then you just fall down again to the bottom because your character hasn't registered that he has to grab the edge.
Yeah.
And it's just annoying. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's just, like, I don't know, I just wouldn't recommend it. Like, this game, it's just...
The worst thing about it, sorry, like, with the climbing mechanics, is your game is about, like, your mainstay abilities are agility, strength, firearms, explosive, and driving. And one of the main points is agility, which is sprint speed, or like just sprinting, movement, and you also have your agility orbs, which you have to climb up buildings to get. So climbing. So why is climbing so broken? To the point where if you're, as you said, if you're up a skyscraper and you fall and you try to grab onto one of the ledges, there is a guaranteed chance that you have at least 3 floors where you can grab onto something, where your character's head will just be grinded into the wall until you actually grab onto it, and then you repeat the process again. And instead of having the A button to, like, you press A and you jump up and then you grab, you have your thumbstick where you can just press up and it'll do it for you, which is like, fine, that's cool and all, but why is that still an issue for if I want to actually jump higher than what my character using the thumbstick is going to do? And why it just comes down to why in an agility-based game, why in a game that actually has climbing as its main feature, is your climbing feature so bloody buggy? But as you were saying, because you were...
I am happy that the developers have said that they are gonna, fix all the issues, especially with COD with the 30 frames per second. And that's good. Like, I'm glad they just haven't completely abandoned it. You have to give, I guess, some respect to developers, because I imagine it being really fucking hard. And I don't know, it just kind of seemed like, no shit to really the developers, but it just kind of seemed like this game was kind of like meant to fail. It just, I can't, or at least meant to flop. Maybe not fail, but it just doesn't, I don't know, I just can't see this game really ever succeeding, after all the shit it went through.
Especially in this period of time.
I was at least hoping for at least an enjoyable game. And to a sense, I did get that, but fuck, it had a lot of flaws. that I feel like they could have at least delayed it again, but at the same time, it got delayed by like 4 years, or like when they ever first announced it, so maybe even 3 years. So at that point,
It should have been smooth.
after delaying it for so long, you'd think you'd be getting a pretty fucking well done game after waiting so long. And in a sense, I guess it's somewhat of a cash grab announcing it so early and putting pre-orders towards it. When you announce a product so early in development and it becomes like it has, you kind of, as a consumer, you kind of can't, like, that's just how you kind of look at it.
You can't find justification for it.
Yeah, just having to wait
I have
so long.
2 things that I really want to talk about because I'm watching the gameplay as we set it up.
Mm.
Combat was decent in terms of gunplay and explosives.
Yeah.
It was decent, but the aiming was very poor. I had to change it from toggle to manual aiming, because if I did toggle, I would literally lock onto an enemy and then jump, and then that enemy would like move besides a building or fly around one of the walls, and then the reticle will continue to follow it in the wall. And there were many moments where that happened, and I had to actually like jump around and try follow it to get onto it. Obviously, I could have stopped locking onto the enemy, but if in that case that I was locking onto it, I want to fucking kill the enemy. So there was that. So I had to change it to manual aiming to kind of like mitigate that, and that was at the very start of the game. There was also the fact that the enemies aren't challenging, and the enemies aren't anything special. Like, you have your basic mobs that are humans or your robots. They will only kill you if there is a large amount of them. And usually when that happens, as I said earlier, the game shits the bed and you have to relaunch the game. Or there's the case where you have the large sentry robots or mechs that just kill you instantly, because there's either 2 or 1 of them, and they just wipe your health down to 0 without any effort. If the enemies are in large numbers, you're dead. That's like guaranteed. But if there's not, you kind of just move on and like continue doing what you were doing, which is more than likely just collecting orbs or doing the rooftop races.
I'm kind of surprised, like, I guess they kind of did it, but, like, you know how, like, every time you verse, like, a boss, afterwards you'd have to do, like, somewhat of a wave thing. You have to survive a constant amount of wave of just enemies until you get to a certain percentage and then they go away. Yeah. I was surprised they didn't add in somewhere, like, you do a challenge thing, you can get bronze, silver, gold, and it's, like, surviving waves of enemies, and, like, that's how you get, like, better strength or stuff. Like, you can only, like, punch or some shit like that.
Yeah, similar.
Like, to upgrade just your strength.
Similar to, like, old games where they had the challenge arenas and whatnot. Something like that.
Yeah, like, I don't know, it just feels like that's something that I could see them doing, and, like, it's just something more than just agility and racing, because that's all that the first 2 had. And again, it's just them just fucking copying and pasting what was on the first 2 onto the third one, but doing a much poorer job at it.
Yeah, and
maybe just, like, even if they did some more challenges that helped you get better explosions or better strength, would have just been at least something new. But no, they didn't do that. It just stuck to what they knew the fan base liked, which I'm happy to say I do like it. I'm just disappointed with the outcome of how they presented it. And that's, I guess, all I can really say about it. It's just disappointing.
With that suggestion, right, you and I both had agility and essentially driving maxed out by the final boss fight. And firearms and explosives were the least, like the least progressed. Because melee was pretty solid in terms of getting to like level 5 or max rank. So I'm actually surprised they didn't come across that in like testing the game and go, yeah, we probably should add a way for players to like reach level 5 or 6 by the time they finish the game for firearms and explosives. Because, yeah, like, we killed a shit ton of enemies, and we literally did everything in the game, and we weren't maxed at the end of the first playthrough. Like, I had to do that secondary playthrough to like, finish it all up. And there wasn't even an achievement tied to that. It was literally just played the game and got max rank. So, I don't know, that's a good suggestion for them.
Like, fuck, just give me, like, the zombies from the second game. Just put me in an arena of them. Just like, yeah, punch the shit out of them. Do it in a minute, and you can get gold.
I'm actually surprised there were
seconds.
zombies in this, because there were in the first and second, in, like, Pacific City and shit.
Yeah, I always thought it was just the second, but yeah, there's that one boss, or there's that one little area where there are zombies in the first one. Yeah, no, I'm actually surprised, because, like, when I was talking about the whole, what's the dumb, chemical in
Chimera.
the game? Chimera.
Green kryptonite.
Like, when there's a part where it has, like, the chimera, and there's, like, all these, like, people in tubes, that's where I was like, alright, they're gonna be, like, fucking zombies, or, like, they're gonna be, like, maybe more hybrid zombies, like, that are faster or some bullshit. And I don't even after playing, I don't even know what the fuck were in those tubes. I know there were people, but I don't know what the fuck their purpose was, just because I just didn't care. There was no reason to care.
There is, like, I guarantee, if they make a Crackdown 4, they're gonna somehow tie the Chimera to new zombies. Like,
probably.
Like, yeah, probably. So in this gameplay, right, I'm at the final cutscene, where the spider dragon flies up. Just the dragon flies up. And I have to ask you one question. Obviously, like, we both fucking hate this game, but are you more, like, as stupid as it sounds, are you more disappointed than anything? Like, the game is pretty shit. And you and I have been, like, following it, or been hoping for it, like, to play it, since that first multiplayer destruction preview. Are you just disappointed, or are you just...
No, it's mainly disappointing. Like, I've got to this point now with having less time to play games. When games come out and they're kind of shit, it's kind of somewhat of a relief, because I'm like, here's 20 games I want to play this year. 10 of them are like disappointing. I'm like, okay, I don't have to like worry about touching them now. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of seems like that's how the market's going. Like, a lot of games are kind of getting pushed out at the $100 range, but they're being very half-assed and disappointed. And I feel like that's just all like Crackdown 3 was. It was just a game that shouldn't have been sold for $100, being sold at that price, and I'm not feeling like it was worth it. Or at least it could have been worth it if more effort was put into it. But yeah, I'm definitely disappointed, because I was a very hard, like, Xbox fan, and it's kind of just disappointing every year when a new exclusive from Xbox comes out, and it's always just really shit. Like, it's not shit, it's just disappointing.
I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, and then I've now just jumped on the PS4 wagon, and characters that I didn't give a shit about a year ago, like Kratos, I now really care about those games, because now playing these newer ones, like Uncharted 4, for example, like, I now really give a shit about these characters, or these games at least, even though I never played them as a kid. Like, I've only just played them, and I'm just appreciating the exclusive work that Sony's doing with their games. Like, every exclusives at the moment has been pretty top notch, at least the last 2 years. Yeah. Starting from like Horizon Zero Dawn. Starting from Uncharted 4 onwards, like, they've all just been really good, and since then Xbox has just kind of been dishing out just half-baked shit.
But, like, in terms of monetization for Crackdown, I feel like they could have like monetized this in some form. Like, I will praise them for allowing us to have multiple agent skins, and you unlock them through gameplay. I will give them praise for that instead of going, oh yeah, here's $1. Pay $1 or pay $2, $5, and you get these agents in a pack or by themselves. Like, they could have done that, and I feel like people would still eat it up. But the fact that they didn't, and the fact that we can earn them in game, I'll give them like a crap ton of praise for, especially in like today's game environment where everything needs to be basically monetized. So to end the video, right?
Yep.
What did you think of the dialogue? I know we touched on it earlier, but what did you think of the overall dialogue of the characters and just like everything?
Just annoying. Annoying and boring is all I could say. Like, Echo's like the second most common voice you hear in the game. I don't know anything about her or give a shit. Even to an extent, they kind of fucked up the other guy's voice. What's the other dude's name?
Something Goodwin. I know that.
Yeah. Even him, I kind of just was like, fucking shut up. He just kept constantly repeating the same things.
That's every single character. And it's so, like, we had to turn off the tutorial hints because they kept saying what agility orbs and hidden orbs were.
Even when you turn them off, it doesn't stop them from repeating constant shit. It's just the same constant shit every single time.
Yeah, and you kind of, at least for me, I completely forgot that Terry Crews was the main character and like marketing point for this game, because I didn't want to play as Terry Crews. Don't know why, just didn't want to fucking play as him. And the only times that I remembered that Terry Crews was somehow related to the game and is in the game was the stupid towers that constantly spurt bullshit when you're near them. Even then, like, there was no story with Terry Crews' character. He was just a skin, and he was the only skin, as far as I'm aware, that actually talked. So that was just like, I don't understand why he was tied to it. Like, on top of that, I would say, like, I would give praise to one thing in terms of dialogue, and that was the civilian screams. The civilian screams actually sounded real and genuine. So whenever, like, it would happen way too often. But, like, we would just be jumping around getting agility orbs, and then you just hear this, ah! But, like, actually, like, real. Like, it sounded like someone was next to me screaming and, like, just scared out of their mind. So I'll give them props for that, but, like, in terms of dialogue and, well, just reoccurring dialogue, it was way too much. Like, every single time those waves happened, I don't care if there's one agent or 100 agents, kill them all, happened about 15 times. I think I counted at one point during one of those survival phases after you kill a boss. And it's just like, have some variety, please. And I don't need to constantly hear about some random building that's in New Pantheon. As far as I don't care about anything that happened in that game in terms of story or atmosphere, world building, anything. Like, I'd rather just remember Crackdown 2 and 2 and 1 at this point, and like Los Muertos and all that shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Also, the audio is completely fucked in terms of leveling. Oh, no. Actually, the world is dead. The world is just dead. There's like hardly any civilians, and when there are, they look so robotic. There was like multiple times where I saw 8 civilians doing like a fucking military march down a sidewalk, and like would just do a 180, repeat it going back the other way, 180, come back again, and that was just their loop. There's no unique civilian movements and shit. They're all just, this is what we do, and robotic and shit. And yeah, it's just a dead world. What would you rate this game, James?
One hidden orb.
One hidden orb out of 250?
I'm gonna say about 370.
Out of 370? Fuck. I will give it one agility orb out of 500.